If you'd like to get early access to more videos like this and help decide what you'd like to see next, please consider joining the Patreon. The link is in the description. Hello everyone. Between 1996 and 2007, no new Railway series books were published. Christopher Awdry was the author of the series at the time, and it seems that although publishers were not interested in making new books, he was interested in writing them. Aside from his non-fiction work, he was still writing railway books for children, but unable to publish Railway series stories. Therefore, he published several other series through Sodor Enterprises. Other series include the Eastbourne series, the Lottie books, and the Wensleydale Railway stories. Today though, we're looking at the Penryn Railway books, as well as a separate book, Hugh Goes Sliding. This book is set on a different railway entirely, but as the books share an illustrator and format, I thought I'd include them together. I have previously made narration videos of these stories which can be found in the description, as well as adapting Hugh Goes Sliding as a Railway series style story, changing the setting from the Corris Railway to the Mid-Sodor. It's probably a good idea to watch them first if you haven't already, or to refresh your memory. Right, let's have a closer look at these books. All the books are the same size, and are roughly the same shape as the Railway series books, only a little larger. They're also significantly thinner, only containing one story. The first book to be published was Hugh Goes Sliding in 2001. This book is still available from the Corris Railway. I got it for £3.95. Inside, it has a bit of information about the Corris Railway, and here is what I think might have been an old Corris logo. The pages are set out in a similar way to the Railway series, with a full page of text and a full page illustration. The engines' names are italicised here. That is a departure from the Railway series style. However, the capitalisation of things like Fair Days and Big Railway is very similar to the Railway series. I think the illustrations in the book are very good. The colours are far more muted than the Railway series though, but quite realistic, and the engines and scenery look great. However, it's got to be said that the faces do look a little bit strange, particularly Hugh with his staring blue eyes. They aren't too bad, just probably not what we're used to. Having the bank, in inverted commas, as a part of railwayman parlance introduced to a railway book again is very Railway series. Now this page has two pieces of direct speech, both of them spoken by Hugh's driver. Hugh had one line a couple of pages ago. This book does not contain much speech, and in fact there's no inter-engine banter at all, as we would expect from a Railway series story. If you hadn't noticed, all the illustrations have a tiny JC signature at the bottom. Without his staring blue eyes, I think Hugh's face actually looks really good here. I really like the head-on angle ahead of the crash. The final image, I think, also shows a huge difference between the faces. Kerr's face, without the electric blue eyes, is much better than Hugh's. The last page shows a map of the Corris, along with some illustrations and photographs, and a cartoon symbol which is all seen on the front page with the word Corris Railway, which is why I think it might have been one of their old symbols. There is also some background information on the author and illustrator. I'm not sure how Christopher gets to 85 titles in the Railway series, as he has written far more than 85 individual stories, but fewer, as far as I can tell, than 85 whole books. Overall, I really like this little book. The story is very much like a Railway series one, but is perhaps a little heavy on description and light on character interaction. 3 years later, Christopher Awdry and Jonathan Clay collaborated again on Railway for Sale. This book is set on a different railway entirely called the Sandglass Railway, based on the Penryn. Now, Sandglass means green or blue causeway in Welsh, and Porth Sarn means causeway harbour. It looks like, as well as the 4 main engine characters who we'll meet in a minute, there is a vertical boiler engine, as well as a little diesel. Unlike in Hugh Goes Sliding, the engines here have no faces. Each is a different size or shape and colour, and so they still look quite different from one another. Now, in Hugh Goes Sliding, the engines had faces but didn't really need them. They barely spoke or looked at a thing. Here the engines speak far more, and so it's ironic that they're faceless. The book's layout varies from that of the Railway series and Hugh Goes Sliding, as we have the full image on one side and a highlighted detail on the other. Unlike Hugh Goes Sliding, the engines' names are not italicised, but yet the speech is. The middle pages have visible staples. These books are not bound as professionally as the Railway series, but the quality of the paper and the printing is very good. I really like this double page illustration, which makes it feel like you're in the aisle between the engines. The manager only appears in this story. The engineer, Mr. Owen, does appear in the sequel. The coaches you can see near Matthew are based on the Penryn open coaches, the basis for the Telchlin open coaches, and coaches like Ada, Jane and Mabel on the Skarloey Railway. These books feature a lot of grey, so it's nice to see the pop of colour that engines give. The page numbers are on every page, often in the illustrations, which is a bit of a shame. Whether the series was intended to carry on past the second book we may never know, but it seems like future books would have involved the development of the line as a heritage railway. This page says that the railway will be getting new coaches, something we don't see in the following book, and the 2 men who take over are suggested to be important. There is a mention of an owner here who, like the manager, is not mentioned afterwards. The back cover has a very similar message to the one in the end of Hugh Goes Sliding. However, this time Thomas gets mentioned by name. I think this book works quite well with the accent of Matthew, the peril of the future of the line, and the final celebration. I think it's a little bit similar to the final story in the 8 Famous Engines, when Thomas has an accident and the engines have to wait for him to be repaired before leaving. The last book we're going to look at today is the sequel to Railway for Sale, called Luke Goes Flying. This was published in 2006. The inside page now has Helen Awdry as a co-author, and the dedication is to her, as well as a list of Sodor Enterprises available books and their contact information. This information had changed completely from the information given in the previous book. This illustration seems to be a flashback, and like with one of the illustrations in the last book, seems to show a vertical boiler engine who is not one of the main 4. Scenes like this are where the illustrations suffer from having no faces. It would be much improved to see the engines react to what they're being told. This book features Luke as the main character, while it seems Matthew was the most important character from the first. My guess is we would have seen books featuring Mark and John if the series had continued. The humans in this book always look a little still and stiff, and this combined with a lack of faces makes them seem quite static. However, the engines are still illustrated brilliantly. We're told that Luke, Matthew and Mark all took Slate to the harbour, suggesting that John did not, and this hints at the engines having different roles that we never really got a chance to explore. The rock slide is not quite as visually exciting as Matthew's crash, to be honest. But it is a good bit of action in the story. It's nice to see the engines working together and helping each other out. Luke being disassembled is great, as it's something I don't think we've seen in an engine story before. The scene of Luke being swung on the cable is an illustration that would also have benefited from a face greatly. But the story ends happily with the engines back on terra firma, Luke being rebuilt, and the engines enjoying telling their tale. This book features a blurb at the back, which the others do not, and it does seem to suggest that the writing and illustrating partnership is in good health. However, it would be their last contribution. I think Luke Goes Flying is a lovely book, but not as good as Railway for Sale either in the prose or the illustrations. This was to be the last book published by Sodor Enterprises. The following year, Thomas and Victoria was published by Egmont, and the other series written by Christopher Awdry were not continued. To date, only one further book has been published by Christopher Awdry, that being the final Railway series volume, Thomas and His Friends. The illustrator, Jonathan Clay, in his book mentions he was a fan of the Railway series as a child, so it is nice that he got to provide some illustrations for a similar series. Hugh Goes Sliding is a standalone story, but I think it's possible more stories could have been written about these characters. As to the engines on the Sandglass Railway, it seems as though more books would have been likely if the publishers hadn't wanted a new Railway series book. I think Mark and John would have been more involved in future books, and the new owners' ideas for the Preservation Society would have been seen, such as new coaches and heritage displays. We may also have met some of the other engines, such as the vertical boiler engine, in future stories. Overall, these books served a bridge in the hiatus of the Railway series, and with good stories and high quality art, they are worthy books. However, they didn't have the budget of a Railway series volume, so they could never be as popular or well produced. I hope you like this little look at the 3 books, 2 of which are quite hard to find now. Hugh Goes Sliding is still available from the Corus Railway shop. I'll put a link in the description, and I'll recommend you buy it to support a fantastic railway and also to own a Christopher Awdry book outside the Railway series. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the Patreon like these fine folk to help pick the next video subject, get early access to new content and help support the channel.